Hello and welcome to the Houston District Photographic Society Colour Print of the Year 2020. And we're very pleased to welcome our judge for this competition, Marilyn Stewart. Our Master of Ceremonies for today, Phil Wiseman.
After the storm, Kaikoura.
Okay, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time getting rid of the people down the side. Hang on. Hide video panel, that's the one. The Kaikoura I know of is in New Zealand, so I don't know if that's there or it's a different one. I shouldn't guess when I don't know, should I? What I'm seeing here is a landscape image that has lots of variety. It's a good viewpoint. I've got the cragginess of the rocks and the texture and the detail in those has come across very well indeed. The timing that you took the photograph has worked well with that breaking wave, and it's just turned. It hasn't fully fallen, so that we've got a little bit of space between the white froth and where it's going to fall, and also there's a little bit of a darker sea behind it, so it isn't getting sort of totally lost. We can see it is within the sea. The background hills, they do look misty. They certainly look misty on this screen, but I like the little. Am I going to have a play with this? I like the. Let's hope so. This here, that cloud seems to echo the hill beneath it, and I do think that works well. Oops, for let me just get rid of that. That's it. For the image. Now, you might not have noticed that, and you were probably paying more attention to the wave, but I do think the sort of shape of the hill with the shape of the clouds above it has that sort of echoing repetition that I find interesting. I'm liking right at the bottom of the image, that little pool of water that is showing me sort of the colour of the sky above it, the blue on the left and the more grey clouds on the right. And it is definitely craggy, and it definitely, I can sort of work my way around the image quite a lot here, and it's a lot to see and a lot that holds my attention, and I'd like to hold that one back, please.
Anissa.
Okay, this young girl looks to me as though she's got perhaps a sweet in her mouth. I don't know whether she was just given that, or she's smiling, or she's just drunken something she hasn't yet swallowed. Yes, so we've got that sort of magic moment of something that she was doing as well as you taking the image. There's one or two little points of white area that I would ideally want to, this little bit here is a little bit on the white side, I find. Just there, if you see what I mean. And then there's one or two little pointers sort of further down. There is one I'm looking at, just there. It's sort of, I often tend to look around an image and see what is a little bit white, a little bit distracting. And I can see that I've got rid of any white areas on the edges and the corners, because what I'm seeing is a little bit of a darkened vignette. Just that does hold our attention into the view of the girl. I think you've got crisp eye, always good detail in the hair, and definitely caught a moment. Next, please. So this one's Baby Rider. And I've got an image, quite a flat image. So I think it maybe was a little bit cloudy when you went there, but it gives a lot of information about how the village is where these people are living or visiting. We've got the the shutters, the open shutters to the window. We see they're fairly affluent, I think, maybe because they have the Honda small motorbike come scooter, and maybe this is a granddaughter or niece or somebody. So we have got a lot of information. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if he was just smiling a little bit? I don't know whether he's holding the pose for you or he's looking at somebody. You know, I know we've got a great deal of detail, but I would have liked some sunlight or shadow, more importantly, just to lift the image a tiny bit. And you have to take what you've got when you're there, I know, but I do, I'm enjoying the sort of splashy colour of his sarong or whatever it is, and the flash on the motorbike. But it's, I just find it a tiny little bit on the flat side. But I am pleased that you included the whole of the window on the right hand side for your crop of this picture. Next.
Bright and sunny.
Definitely. And I think it feels bright and sunny because of that yellow, that it might be a daisy. I've no idea. I'm not really, it's probably got a different name. I think daisies are sort of white and pink edges. I think there's one coming up. But the bright and sunny definitely refers to those flowers. And you know, I'm going to mention numbers because everybody's saying, oh, we should have an odd number. But you know why? Because this really looks the part, doesn't it? Maybe the third element is the vase that it's in, shall we say. But I didn't, up until now, I haven't, when I've been looking at them in the run through, I haven't sort of thought, oh, there's only two until now. So it obviously wasn't something that came across me immediately. What I do quite enjoy is the different coloured background. It's almost a sort of a rainbow montage. I'm not too keen on the detail that's at the bottom of those colours, and there's sort of one or two vertical lines in it that sort of are misplaced in my opinion. The pattern's fine, and I like the colours of the background, especially top right corner, because it does fit in with the colour of the vase. And then those flowers really do pop for sharpness, whereas the rest of the image, including the vase, is a little bit soft. Quite a central image. Again, you're going against the grain, as they say, but I've always said there are no rules. And I do think that the image works, but because of the bottom edging, I'm not going to hold that one back. Next.
Cart gap.
So I wonder, you know, I'm not going to wonder. I was thinking, is this a place, or are these vehicles that have been left? Whatever they are, it is rusty panels of something, isn't it? Maybe, as it were, different carts, or I don't know. Don't suppose. So don't think what it is. Just what we've got and what we see. I do like the fact that you've got the main image well away from the left and the right side. So there might have been more, but you've cropped well in this. The element of mist that is sort of in front of the upright ones and just going across the items that have fallen down does add a certain element of mystique to the image. I'm quite I think we all appreciate rust as photographers, but I am appreciating that the holes that are in these upright vertical panels in the background, they do add an element of texture, lack of detail, I suppose, but there is a certain texture there. The along the top edge, this is a little bit on the darker side, and quite often I think that water, and I feel it is a watery scene beneath, is often darker than the top, so it's a little bit confusing to me that the top is now darker. It's possible that you darkened the top down and didn't the bottom, but for an image of rust, which we photographers love, I do appreciate this one, but I won't be holding it back.
Daisies in spring.
Very good. Someone has a sense of humour. I wouldn't put it past the man with the fish earlier to have come up with this title, even if the work wasn't his own. The background has that look to the two, was it called Bright and Sunny, the two yellow flowers earlier, and of course these are daisies here. Only I say that because of the pastel background. Now, in my mind, I don't know how big the slinky is, the spring, but daisies are pretty small. So this is quite almost a macro image, it could be. I like the placement of the flowers at a clump to one side and then the two individual ones. It's not going to grab my attention for too long, though, because I think the background colours are just a tad too gary for my liking. And of course, when I'm judging, it's always my opinion, and it's so artistic. An opinion, you know, is always subjective. And every image here tonight is I found interesting to see and find good points in, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to just pick out the few that have appealed to me the most. Yeah, I won't be holding this one back. Next.
Doe and Crow.
I like the play on words that you have here, the sort of repetition of the sound. And I think the bird is helping the doe out by getting rid of insects, and that's probably why she is tolerating this bird on her head, especially as it's covering one eye up. Do you know, I suppose ideally would have liked the bird to have been facing the direction of the sunlight, right? As a photograph goes, it's possible you clawed out some shadow detail within the crow's head there. Detail within the ears have come across well, and the texture down the neck of the doe works well. There's a couple of quite bright grass shoots on the bottom right hand corner that are really they're a little bit bright, and I'm not too sure if I'm covering my fingers up now, and I quite like it without there. It's not a natural history image. You could clone it out. I like there's a little hint of detail in the background there. I would sort of keep that in, but I'd have a look at this without those there, and then maybe put it back gently a little bit at a time to see if you really do like it there. My personal opinion is that it would be better without there, but what a find. I wonder how long the crow stayed there. Next.
You called?
This is an image that is the title sort of makes you sit up and look, and then I am aware that at the angle of which this was taken, is the camera sitting on the ground? How far away are you from subject? The depth of field I can see is quite tight because it's only just a little bit in focus just before the U. And the fleece that the ewe has got such detail. It looks as though maybe spring is here and the shearer will be around soon, because it does look like a fine fleece. I think it's a shame these days that fleeces don't get sold and sometimes they're thrown away. Whereas once upon a time, wool and the woolen industry and textiles was a lot stronger in this country, but we've swayed towards sort of polyesters and such fabrics as being slightly easier. I do like the angle. I think the sky that you've got behind it sets a good backdrop, and there's that absolutely inquisitive look that we've got from this ewe. And I'll hold this one back, please.
Floodwater Tewkesbury.
Wow. I'm just wondering, after all the storms that are going to have been promised for the next week or so, certainly in my area, that we may end up with sort of floods here as well. I'm quite interested. There's a little barrier of flotsam and jetsam type twiggery stuff across, sort of just below the middle, and that's giving us a clear and more or less unrippled water to the left of it, whereas it's a bit more running and a different texture to the right of it, purely because of that barrier that's in the way. I think the sunlight is the other side of this tall building that's on our left. I like the fact that the tall building right on the left has got a little bit of a corner in the wooden slats. Yeah, if you see what I mean, you've got like an upright corner. I think if you'd cropped so that corner wasn't on it, we'd never have known where the end might have been. So I like that cropping there. The fact that those whites are greys because the sunlight isn't on it, of course. And I'm wonder if a wider angle lens and not having the railings in the foreground could have benefited the image. Of course, I don't know whether you might have had a 300 lens and been like 10 feet away in order to get the image. I don't know the area, but interesting clouds and a good sort of rendition. Next.
Glencoe Lochron.
Every picture I see of Scotland always seems really interesting, and I suppose it's because I live in North London, so I don't get to. It's very flat round by us, and I don't see many hills at all. And when you do, it's quite a surprise. The texture and the detail of the trees has come out well, and some evergreens and some not has given sort of a good sort of feel of the season. And then the beyond, we've got the foreground detail of that little island, and then beyond the snowy mountain. There's just sort of about 3/4 of the way over in the sky from the left. There is a little white patch there, and I think I might have just kept it but toned it down, because as I look at the image, I'm really drawn to that white, fairly uninteresting spot in the clouds. So I would sort of just tone it down a bit. I'm just covering, you won't see me, but I'm covering my finger up onto the screen. And I do think, for my liking, that would be better. Just toned, keep the texture there, but just tone it down with one of the greys from the colour of that sky. Next.
Ha ha, said the clown.
Yes, that's a song, isn't it? Don't ask me who it's by, but I do remember that song. It's quite garish. You can see why some people have a phobia of clowns, can't you? Quite like the diagonal that you've got the clown coming out of the box on. Whether he's just sprung out or been placed there, I wasn't sure. But then I did notice that part of the spring was over the edge of the box. So I'm guessing that that just held it in place. And I think from the lighting that there's a light or lamp just inside the box as well, maybe a torch or something, and that has lit up the red fabric around what would be his neck and some of his face as well. I agree with the key line around the edge. Didn't have to be white, of course, but I think because of the black background, you do need the delineation between it and the background of what we're seeing on screen. Next.
Hyena pups at play.
It is quite a magic moment. I don't know how long you were able to experience these pups playing. Sometimes their mom might come and move them on because she's a little bit nervous of photographers or vans in the area, perhaps. But you've certainly caught a good moment. The eye contact between the two, I'm guessing, siblings here, although obviously I don't know. Interestingly, we can see a part of the pad, the paw, that we wouldn't normally see, and it shows us the sort of foretoes and then the sort of the little pad bit behind that. I like the fact you've got a brightness in the eyes as well, and also that I can see on the one that's standing up, the back of the hair is separated well between that and the paler background. Do you know, when you first look at it, it does look as though, well, they're very much the same colour as the background and they don't stand out very much. But of course, that is the whole essence of their coloration, is that they need to blend into the background because of predators. Although, to be honest, if they are hyenas, I'm not too sure what predators they would have. But at a young age, they would have those predators. Next.
Just chilling.
Yes. I think the one in the foreground has been getting grass from the other side of the fence because he's got grass in his hair. It's always greener on the other side, isn't it? I think the moment in time that you took the photograph with him, just having his mouth open, maybe he was chewing or maybe he was just about to yawn, I don't know. I wonder how they see because of all that shaggy hair around them. The other interesting thing that this image shows us is that the horns are not necessarily always in the same shape. You know, one is pointing upwards and one is like handlebars and straight, or handlebars on my bike anyway. At first looks, I thought, is this picture on the squiff? Because it looks to me as though it should rotate anti-clockwise just a little bit. But then I look at the posts at the side, about just a little bit down from the top right-hand corner, and that's absolutely parallel with the side of the image. So I'm guessing not, and I'm guessing therefore, being we're in Scotland, we've probably got a little bit of a hill again, you know, those things I'm not used to in numbers anyway. So definitely caught a moment. I think they're probably happy enough for you to take pictures relatively close by because they're so interested in what they're doing that they're not going to be troubled too much by it. Next.
Keeping watch.
I think that's a good title. We can see that there's something very intense about the face that we're the eyes, I like that glint in the eyes, that little bit of white, possibly from sunlight has just caught that, and a good sort of focus between the chin, the nose, and the back of the head. It's going out a little bit on the back, and that in turn has enabled you to have a fairly out of focus background. Now, there are one or two things with the background. On the left-hand side, there's a couple of whiter spots, which are beginning to draw my attention. It's possible you could have cropped a little bit or just toned them down a tad as well. Coming out of the top left-hand corner, there's a line of what could be a twig, a branch, a stem of and a leaf, but it's jarring just a little bit. And again, I think I've mentioned before that it isn't a natural history competition, so it doesn't matter too much whether you just tweak things a little bit. And I'd certainly be thinking of tweaking that. Just continuing with the background on the right hand side, about halfway down, I see quite a distinct line where there's a darker area and a paler area. And again, I'd have just blended those areas so that it wasn't so distinct. And if you're using this as a natural history picture for a competition, then you obviously have to leave it as it is. But because it isn't, I think I would just tweak those little bits of the image. You have got, as the title says, I'm just looking at keeping watch, and you have got that look definitely on the cat. I'm hedging my bets. I'm not saying what it is. Next.
Light and shade at Peyto Lake.
I think I know where this is, but either way, that turquoise lake, it says to me glacial lake, yeah. So I think we're in an area, certainly where I think it's Canada, but where the glacier its meltwater will come into the lakes and the rivers and go on. I quite like that. Just a little bit past the lake to the right, there's that little sort of 3 spots of white, and that really does take you through the image. And it was mentioned earlier that my father was a photographer. He was also a watercolor artist in his own little way. And this image in particular does remind me of a watercolor painting. Now, I'm very aware that these are prints tonight, not digital images. Like I've got a piece of paper to my right saying prints on it, so that I won't forget. And I can really see this one on maybe an art textured paper, giving that impression of that watercolor atmosphere for sure. I'm not going to hold it back, but I can just see that happening. Yeah. Okay, next.
Mother and fawn.
Yes. The something, I don't know whether the camera clicking for one image, they've definitely heard something and both looked round or forward towards that noise, because you've got absolute eye contact with them. The fact that we can see the whole of the young one is good, because we can see the spots on the back, which is nice. The looks as though they're in a sort of heather environment. Now, it's always difficult when I don't know the taking of this image, but I just feel as though it would benefit from a little bit more exposure and then a little bit more contrast. It sort of looks as though it's lacking in a little. It needs a sort of pop to make it stand out. Now, like I say, it's difficult because I don't know how you took it and whether you wanted to reproduce what you took. You don't always have to produce for club what actually you took. You can change what you took to do. But I just think this, I like the moment, but I just think it needs a little bit more pop to it. Next.
Natural art form.
Yeah, I've seen these in the sand, and especially when you've got lots of sand. One is a little bit heavier than the other, and one will run. So you've got like fawn and brown here. I've seen it with beige and black sand as well, and that can be quite impressive. And then you have to, everyone looking at you would wonder what you're doing, but you're walking around the sand looking right down at your feet to see that you don't tread on anything, and also to find one that is worthy. This looks like the end of a rhubarb stick to me. You probably thought it was a tree, but hey, you know, that's what imagination is. And whilst the main subject of the image is quite central in the image, I do think that that is the right place for it. I'm hoping you got as much texture and detail out of the image as you could have done. I wouldn't have minded just a little bit more in the blacks coming through. But again, it's just a personal idea from me. Next.
Neglected.
It's interesting, isn't it? There's that fascination that photographers have with rust and dilapidation. And I think it's because it's so well, hopefully so unusual, that we are attracted to it. There was in the Lake District, there's a quarry, Threlkeld, I think it is, quarry, well known for its rust, with old artifacts from the quarry. And we went there once, and we had our little Lakeland photographic holidays hats with us. And he said, "Oh, you're photographers, you'll be looking for the rust." So and he was right, but there is more to this than just the rust. I can see that the third window across and two down, so we're sort of on the right hand of the middle frame, is there's something behind it, possibly the edging of a door or a door handle part mount. And I think that was well placed to have right in that center of that hole. And then sort of centered on the left as well, the fact that you've got a black area mostly in that one, and that's that one. So you've got, well, I'll have a black one here, a bit like Countdown. I'll have a black one here, I'll have a rusty one here, and I'll have a paler one, you know, there. But even so, we are in between quite modern limestone-ish walls. So that's an anomaly, isn't it? But yeah, I like the angle that you've got. And I actually think this would quite look good as a panel, maybe 3 images, just to show that a little bit more of the character of that building. Next.
No time for tea.
This is the Abbey tea rooms. I don't know where this is, but I'm thinking St Albans. It could well be. I don't know. I've not been up that way, although it's not far from us for a long time. It could be anywhere, any abbey. No time for tea. I'm guessing it's the cyclist that you're thinking of for that, but maybe the people who are potentially walking past as well. There's a lot to see in this. I'm glad you've kept the whole of the shadows of the people in up against that door. That's worked well. And also the shadow at the top right of the good question. Hanging, it's like a basket hanging there, that the shadow for that is all complete. And also on the left hand side towards Chandler's Court, I can see the edge of the gateway, the entrance in. So I think cropping has been done successfully here. So yep, I think my eye of attention goes to the guy wearing red, and then I sort of work backwards along the left. Next.
Stag in dawn sun.
Do you know, it's quite often the light can play such a big part in images, and this one in particular does show that the fact that you've got the texture from the stag, but then you've got the light just glancing on him. Now, it picks up the eye. We've got a little bit of catchlight in the eye. It picks up, I can almost feel a wet nose, you know, it just sort of has that effect. The texture of the neck and down has come across really well. And then sort of the tips of I presume they would be a little bit paler anyway, but the tips of the antlers have really caught the light and make for a really good diagonal of the image. And just so he's not completely in the black, as it were, there's just a few grasses in the foreground that aren't getting in the way of his chin. I don't know whether you managed to do that yourself or whether that's how it happened. Now, because of the nature of where the light is, there isn't a lot of detail behind his head, but you sort of wouldn't expect it because of where the light is. But I think you've got a sufficiently good idea, because, and it's also possible that in a print that might be there. It's also possible. You haven't done a key line around the outside, but I have got definition between your black and the black of the what I presume will be a dicentra background. Save that one, hold that one back, please.
The Holy Temple of St. Raphael, Becky
Yes.
Amos, Cyprus.
Oh, well done.
I had to have a cough in the middle of that one.
Yeah, this elevated, you know, you're up high when taking the image, I think has given sort of quite a whole new sort of stance on things. So quite often when you've got tall buildings, and it is tall because we've got the element of the person in the foreground, so it is quite tall. And we haven't got these converging verticals if you were standing down there with her looking up there. So we've got good straight dominant lines, and I like the fact that there's just the one person, there's no other people around, so we can concentrate on the structure of the temple itself. And the fact that the lady is wearing red just highlights the roof details. And I don't know whether they've just had that roof done again, but it really does look pristine. And how old the building is, it looks old, but it looks in immaculate condition. And I think quite often architectural shots are dismissed, but I do like this one, and I will be holding it back.
What dreams are made of?
It's a lovely title, especially as we can see the word rally, and they're looking at cars. There's a very good interaction between the two children, in a little bit of shadow, both of them. Maybe that's good. Maybe it was very, very sunny out there. And then just to put a little bit of context to where they are, there's a antelope of some sort in the background. So that's quite a sort of a neat foil to tell us where they are. Also, the fact that the boy in turquoise, we've got the whole of his shadows, I think it's him, in the bottom left-hand corner as well. Next.
Wild flowers from the garden.
I wonder if that was done this spring, when perhaps people haven't been out too much. Well, I've been in our garden a lot, but I haven't been very much further. And although we have flowers, they don't look as sort of interesting as the ones here. Like the stems going from the bottom left, spreading outwards in a sort of a semi or quarter circle effect. I think that the pink and the white amongst the blues just lifts those colours, and we've sort of they're very pastel shades, all of them. I particularly like the blues that are quite central, so the one between the red and the white, and then a little bit lower to its left. And the background is quite, I'm not sure how you would have had that was put on, because the stems fade into the background at the bottom. But however it was produced, for me, it does come across well. And if it was done during lockdown, then all the better. I must admit, I haven't done too much photography at all. I preferred my other hobby of dressmaking. But, oh, should I admit that? But I do find this one a sort of a gentle, still life image, and I will hold it back, please.
Willow warbler singing.
Right. At first I thought, oh, isn't it good that we've got his beak open? But if he's a warbler, maybe that's all he does. You know, maybe he does a lot of beak open. Good moment anyway, that I think it's good to see a beak open of a bird. He's balanced on this branch stem of, I know not what, but which goes across the diagonal and creates quite an interesting composition. Like the catch-like in his eye. I wish there was more detail in his breast. I think maybe wind caught it, or he shivered, or something, and that can go out of focus quite easily. But it is a shame that it's not quite as crisp in the plumage and the feathers as it might be. Next.
That's the final one of the colour print of the year. So we have the held back images, which I hope I can pull up just like that.
Okay. Oh, that's handy. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So should we run through them? I think this will work.
Yes, do.
There we go. So I'll just run through them manually, then you can come back and make your decisions as you wish. So 5 held images.
Can you show the board? That's it. That's it.
There we go. Getting there.
Okay. The wildflowers from the garden is commended.
Okay. I think I need to. Stacey. Very highly commended. So I'll just do this. Yes, there we go. Got it right. Okay. That's
flash. Okay. And highly commended is the Holy Temple. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
You calling is third.
Third place.
After the Storm, Kaikoura is second.
Yes. And I think we know what the last one is then.
Yeah, what I think is a great print, right, and would look good as prints, is the stag.
Brilliant. Okay, so just to read out who they are, I'm just going to go back to the light box and I'll read out who the authors are for those. Okay, so the Wildflowers from the Garden is Jill Beckett. The Holy Temple is Steve Thompson. Third, You Called is Steve Thompson. Second, after the storm at Kaikoura, is Ruth Wiseman. And first is Stag in the Dawn, which is Lorraine. So I suppose we all, yeah, that's it. Yeah. We should all unmute ourselves now, then we can do some clapping.
Start off by saying thank you, Marilyn, for agreeing to do this at all. But thank you particularly for doing this as you have done it tonight, because this is about as close as we can get to a normal meeting in a virtual environment. So it's fantastic. I thank you so much for doing it. It was wonderful.
Pleasure.
I do like the fact, another thing I need to thank you for is the fact all the way through you said, I'm looking at this as a print. And it's so easy when you're looking at a PDI to forget that you're actually trying to judge a print. So thank you so much for doing that. I think you've done a really good job for that. Excellent all the way through. You obviously got a great attention to detail. You've picked up a lot of things like the shapes of the clouds in the first one. And also you've got the importance of the titles. Often you find that judges just ignore the titles or just get them wrong. So the fact that you've actually included the titles as part of your critique is just absolutely fantastic. And what can I say, I really thought you picked the right picture for the colour of the year. Just wonderful. So everybody, if you can unmute yourselves or be unmuted, and a big round of applause for Marilyn for doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank